thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. This all comes from an original conversation that I had with our superintendent, and he asked a very good question. Without the fall MAP being administered because of our circumstances, what other ways can we talk about or understand the delivery of our curriculum? How's it going? Is the quality there? What I have up on the screen is an example of a recent article that asks the same question. And I read this and shared this with you. And my understanding of the article is he's actually suggesting one way to talk about it is to look at the quality of the assignments being given by the teachers. And that's one way to talk about how the curriculum's going. Is it okay or not? Did you have any thoughts on that conversation, that topic? What did you want to say about that?
Well, I find it difficult to assess my students anyway, not virtually, but just in all settings without talking to them. And so the MAP tests and all those benchmark tests are good, but they kind of test what the the student, the child knows on that day at that time. And I don't really think it gives them a fair assessment of knowledge or abilities. So I meet with all my students regularly. And virtually I have meetings that I require them to attend, and we call them 5-minute meetings, where we get a chance to talk, where I can assess their knowledge. They can explain things to me that I don't understand, etc. And another way that I just think it's really important, besides marking boxes on a paper, is testing what they can do. I can talk about my first summative if you'd like, or if you're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, sure. Go. How did that go?
So I'm getting it this week. And I've just told them that my summatives aren't like others they may have seen. And I'm giving them an activity. We're graphing, we're talking about functions and linear relationships. I kind of squashed the first 2 units into one. But I'm having them actually go find a song or something that they can measure beats per minute, and to graph that linear relationship. They're going to bring it back. They're going to, show me the equation, show me their graphs, show me their words.
Why did you choose for them to find something, a song? It's interesting.
Well, I gave them an assignment and I had them choose. So I had them choose 3 things that they could graph, that linear relationships that they could find in their environment. And from when I received those, I saw that a couple of them chose music. And so I just thought that was a great idea. So that's what I'm using for the assessment.
I mean, I think it's a great idea because you're asking them to have interests in something. You're asking them to make connections with the real world. And so it's a real world application. So do you think a real world application is more effective than a multiple choice test or a paper test?
Well, yeah, I think they both have their place. I think they're both necessary, but to say one is more important than the other, I'm not sure. I'm probably not qualified to make that judgment, but I do like to have them, whether you do paper or whether you're doing whatever kind of assessment you're doing. I really believe in second chances. I've learned so much during a test or thought of the right answer just after handing the test in so many times in my life. And if I had just had a second chance to show that I do know this material, that I just got whatever at that moment. So I'm having my students bring in the rough draft so to speak. I know that's kind of strange in math to have a rough draft, but they're going to bring their, I'm going to assign the problem on Sunday or Monday. They're going to bring their rough draft in Wednesday, Thursday, and get questions answered, you know, get some advice, and then take it home again and revise it and bring a final copy on Sunday or Monday. So they have,
that's great. I mean, that's great. It's one of these conversations I've had with some people, and I don't have many teammates in the conversation, because when we've been talking about hybrid learning, for example, and we've been talking about how to make use of your face-to-face time. Let's say if you had a day you could have the students on campus. And what I've read and all the experts are saying is actually you shouldn't use that day on campus as test day. Come in and take a test, because all that communicates is mistrust. Actually, what you should do with that on campus day is exactly what you're saying. In a way, that would be your rough draft day. You give them great feedback on the rough draft, and then you do your assignment or test or assessment online. And hopefully they all succeed, because you spent your face-to-face time giving them feedback, so the next day when they take the thing for real or submit it for real, they all get A's, they all succeed. And that's just a hugely different message. There's one message, I don't trust you, so you have to come in and test. And the other message is, let's use that once per week hybrid face-to-face time so I can help you learn, because that's what I care about and I want you to succeed. So I love that. That's great. I want to go back to something that you said when you were saying, like, I don't think I'm qualified to make that decision. Or so it leads to the question then, who should be making those decisions? Who do you think within our school should be deciding that this is a good test, this isn't a good test, and should it be controlled?
Boy, that's a good question, Paul. But well, I was comparing the difference between like the sit down right now, answer, hand it in and go test, compared to the like week-long, take some time, think about this important project that you have a deadline for test, and comparing those two ideas. And I guess I just tongue-in-cheek said that I wasn't qualified to make that decision, but I mean, I guess what I mean is I couldn't really assign an importance on it, because sometimes that paper, sit down, do it right now test is the only way that can be, or the most effective way to assess. Other times it's not. And it really, it just is, I guess a case-by-case basis is what you would have to look at. I really hate to make a blanket statement and say, this is always this much more important than this. Or, you know, I just really like to take things case by case and figure out which one is more important for that case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I understand what you're saying. I'm just curious further, who then decides what's best case by case? And so ultimately there's going to be some decision making. And
I guess that is me.
Go ahead.
I guess that is me. I guess I am the one that as the teacher, as the one on the front line, so to speak, you know, interfacing with the student body. I guess I am the one. We the teachers should make those decisions with some guidance from the curriculum department. And as you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, last school year, we spent the whole year creating that assessment definition, what a good assessment is. And so that would be the guidance. And so hopefully next school year, if things get back to normal, we can spend time looking at our assessments using that definition as guidance. I sure hope we can do that next school year. But let's look back at the screen again. And again, this article and our superintendent's question are asking the same thing. how can we tell if it's going well or not this school year, since we're online and since we don't have our big external exams? What do you think? How can we tell that it's going okay this school year?
Well, ultimately, I think the students are accountable to themselves, especially in the older grades and levels. And it sort of applies to the whole cheating thing also. I mean, ultimately, in the end, these kids are going to go off to a college and either succeed or not. So then, yeah, of course we have to have some tests, some like sit down, mark the right answer, get it right, get it wrong assessments. I actually think there should be more of those that are shorter and less, that take less time. I would like to see, instead of one big map test every year or two or whatever, I'd like to see maybe 3 or 4 very small ones per year. Even in this case, I think if we're, I don't want to say constantly, but more regularly checking in with them, through the written, that type of written test, and through discussion and email. I mean, we can't say enough about that personal connection that we have to make with our students in order to know them and know what they know, because 2 different students would explain the same thing in 2 completely different ways. But I need to know them. I need to know what they're thinking. I need to look in their eyes and have them tell me the answer. And I think that is very, very important also, especially in virtual learning, because we lose that. I've lost the ability to walk around my room and look my students in the eye and read and hear them and communicate with them and look over their shoulder and see what they're doing. I can't do that anymore. So it's so super important for us to meet on face-to-face, one-on-one on Zoom.
It sounds like what you're saying is that when it comes to traditional assessments, those are great competency-based benchmarks to check knowledge acquisition. But then when you get into deeper learning, higher order thinking skills, performance tasks are better, and communication is better. In person, on screen, if it has to be, is better. I was talking with someone recently, another school person, and we were talking about how at universities you do your thesis and then you do your thesis defense, and it's an oral defense. And why do they do that? And it rings true for the same things you were just saying, because you have that in-person connection and you can ask follow-up questions. And those in-person oral defenses, those could be more powerful assessments than any paper test could be. So I think that's a great solution for being online, is talk to people in person, kind of the oral defense style, just like universities do. If it's good enough for universities, it's good enough for us too.
I think really ultimately, especially in high school, but in middle school also, we should be sort of thinking that way and aligning our ways with college. And college already has like a hybrid model, right? College students don't go to school every day, all day. And, they go to school for a couple hours each week and they do their work at home. And so that's an excellent point that you made about the oral defense of the thesis and going, if it's good enough for the colleges, then it should be good enough for us. Not only it shouldn't be just good enough for us, it should be what we're aspiring to teach these kids.
Yeah. Great.
That's all I wanted to say about that.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.